Welcome in to the Monday Morning Quarterback UK with your boys Ben, Dami, Kriski and Bids. What's new, guys? How are we?
Yeah, pretty good actually. Can't complain.
Yeah, looking forward to this episode, man.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to adding nothing.
Don't worry, every time you add nothing, Kriski can do a little lap for us.
Yeah.
I don't think I can do that.
Doesn't have it in
I have the facilities for that.
Yeah, it's only the 40k tomorrow.
Well, yeah, what are we talking about today?
Today is the college football season roundup for the year 2022.
Yep.
Lots to get into. We'll do some playoff stuff. We'll do some future stars. And we'll talk about... I've got a sneak preview into my super early, way too early rankings for the 2023 season.
Mm-hmm.
Super early, but there's some reasons for it and we'll throw it out there.
Sounds good to me.
Cool.
Anything else you want to add before we crack on?
No, let's just get to it.
Let's
Jump
jump
let's
straight
get
in.
started. Cool. So, 2022 season started. Pre-season turbulence. Big moves coming via the transfer portal. So, new rules surrounding NIL, which is name, image and likeness, which allows players to make money, which they previously weren't allowed to do, which is an absolute travesty. So, allowing college players to make money way past due and about the time the players were able to make money from their own image.
So what is that like? Just advertisements, sponsorship,
Yeah,
all of the above?
So anything that's encompassed by their name, their image, and their likeness being utilised. So that would include things like them being in video games.
Sure.
So in the NBA 2K franchise, there's a college version as well. NCAA.
I think the NCAA is coming out again next year.
Yeah.
They used to do it.
Is it big?
It was massive, and then they stopped the college football game, I think, in like 2013, and then it was like everyone was fuming. So I think they're bringing it back next season.
They are.
Yeah, so
They get blown up enough by the tens of thousands of fans that come and see them.
Yeah.
They get put in the game.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
mate, yeah. NFL but for college, mate. That's not bad. Imagine FIFA for Cov Uni.
Yeah.
That would be ropey as hell.
What would your pace be? 25?
That's
But you won't be on the game.
No face. Just no face. Just blank character.
Allow me.
No.
Allow me.
You be Ben Chilwell.
Allow me.
Do you know what? It would be one of those like regurgitated players when you play like manager mode up to like 2032 with like messed up face. Yeah, like a regen player that just like.
Allow me. I play for the twos, alright? So,
And ran the line for the ones.
yeah, that was peak.
But yeah, so yeah, no, that would be good.
NIL is massive.
So yeah, so that's gonna be interesting though, because
Is that at all college levels, or does it include junior college? Well, but I guess with junior college, they probably won't get many
They weren't
deals.
bothered in the first
Yeah.
place. They weren't bothered about JUCO in the first place. About players making, but they had Netflix series about JUCO. So
Yeah,
I don't know if they made any money from that, but
I seriously doubt the players actually made any money.
And did it start this season then, or the season just finished?
I'm not 100%.
I'm just wondering what were the biggest, like, who made the most money?
deals.
Like, who was the college player?
Stetson Bennett.
Can't remember.
Don't.
It's definitely
No.
That name makes me smile.
I think it might have been last season, but I'm not 100%
Yeah.
sure. It was 2021 or 2022, but I think it might have been this season actually. But there's a lot of new rules. Either it started the year before and it wasn't very well thought out, and this year it's more serious. Like they're actually allowing players to make a lot more money from it. But I'm pretty sure this is the first year of like proper rules around it, where players can make large amounts of money. We're talking seven figures, like actual millions. They're now not stopping them.
Right.
Because there's players out there now in the age of social media who were big when they're in high school.
Yeah.
So they get into college and they're not allowed to make any money from their own name and likeness. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's absolutely bizarre. So, really, really big deal. There's players out there who are making seven figures now from their own likeness in college.
Interest on that then. Do you think there'll be more players that see out a full college career than go and enter in the draft earlier because potentially
Makes
they can
sense
actually
too, right?
like have an extra 2 years in college
Yeah.
and earn more than actually going to the draft?
Especially on the rookie deal you'll get
Yeah.
in the NFL. You'll probably be on like less than $1 million.
Whereas you see out your
on
senior
rookie
year,
contract.
earn another.
Yeah, but could you not still get them sponsorships and
Yes.
deals while you're in the league
Yes.
as well? So it'll be the same. no
Yeah,
worry.
Yeah.
it's still your name and image and likeness. The whole point is that
Okay.
you're able to sell a brand that is yourself. So you can wear signature sneakers and things like that with the like the
I'm with
Jays,
you.
like Jordans. Like you
Yeah.
could set yourself up with a sneaker deal. Like, not many will, but because they're not going to fund a college player to have a full sneaker line, but
True.
it's very much something that could happen, right?
Yeah.
So you see some of these players who are so big on socials, like millions of followers, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, there are Instagram stars who have fewer followers making more money than college players. For what reason? No reason I can see. So it's well past due. Some of the stuff it's been talked about for decades, but some of the things college coaches were saying before, like as soon as players, I think Dabo Swinney said, as soon as college players start making money, that's where you lose me, and things like that. Like, you're making $6 million a year. When he said that, it's like, really? That's when they lose you? Like, why? I don't understand. They're not going to make more than you, because I get it. That's when dynamics start to shift as a coach, when they make more than you. That's why NFL coaches are really hard to get and to be good, because it's egos in the room and you're making less than your players. Whereas in college, that's never been the case, and it still isn't for most teams. Almost, I don't know any team.
And the coaches decide your future.
Exactly. So it is a big deal, but I think it's a well past due, and it was crazy they couldn't get any money off themselves before.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't that the kind of part of the whole reason why the NCAA didn't want players being able to make money, because they wanted it to be amateur competition.
Yeah, correct.
And as soon as you allow them to make that loads of money, it almost feels like they're not amateurs anymore. It's almost semi-professional.
Exactly.
And that was the NCAA's reasoning, wasn't it?
It was, but I mean, it was nonsense reasoning.
Yeah, of course it was, because they were making money.
They were making money off of it, and they didn't want players making money when it was their money taken away, because the NCAA could use your likeness and get money for it, which is what they were doing.
Yeah.
Well, how do you think the game got funded before?
Yeah.
So it wasn't quite as aggressive as we're literally going to use your likeness and make loads of money, but they did do it in the games. Jalen Rose made a big deal about it about 10 years ago, when they used his face, body, name, everything in the game, and didn't even tell him. He didn't even know. He was like, "I'm in the game and I didn't realise." Because they own your likeness.
That sounds illegal.
It does, doesn't it? But that's what you sign up to when you sign up for college sports, and that chance to get into the pros, which we've spoken about before. Less than 1% of players make it into the pros. That's what we sign up for. But now it makes way more sense. There were players who are now in the league who struggled to make ends meet when they were in college. Not because they couldn't make money from the name, engine, and likeness. They just weren't able to make any money. So yeah, crazy. But really big move. Really big deal.
Sounds good. Sounds positive.
Definitely positive, yeah. Moving on to the next thing. So, big coaches and player moves in the lead up to the 2022 season. So, biggest player moves, quarterback Caleb Williams to USC from Oklahoma. He moved with coach Lincoln Riley. I'll go into his move in a minute, but that's a huge move.
Yeah, he's meant to be pretty good.
He's been really good this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't he like the next Mahomes apparently?
Yeah, people are talking about him. He could have gone first in the draft after his second season. Like if he was drafted now, he could, and it was his first full season.
Oh wow!
And they were saying, he could go first in the draft right now, and it's like, they're talking
That's
about
bold.
So
talking about Trevor Lawrence level of caliber player. But he can't get drafted, obviously, like I think we mentioned before in a previous episode. You can't get drafted until your junior season. You've played 3 years in the league, because they want to keep players in the league.
Yeah.
Quinn Ewers, quarterback from Ohio State to Texas, another big move. I'll just breeze through these, but Jordan Addison from Pittsburgh to USC, Jamar Gibbs, running back from Georgia Tech to Alabama, cornerback Eli Ricks from LSU to Alabama, offensive tackle Kingsley Swamatea from Oregon to BYU. Jackson Dart, QB from USC to Ole Miss. So they moved Jackson Dart out of USC to bring Caleb Williams in. He went to Ole Miss. And actually, he had a good year at Ole Miss. So he wasn't a bad quarterback. They just prefer Caleb Williams with Lincoln Riley. Quarterback Bo Nix from Auburn to Oregon. He had another really good year. Bo Nix. Another really good year. Oregon had a great year. We'll go over that later.
Go Ducks.
Yeah, go Ducks. And wide receiver Mario Williams from Oklahoma to USC. Roundup of that, so USC making the biggest moves following the move of Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma to USC, which I'll go on to in a second. So those are the main player ones, but yeah, USC were big movers this year. We'll go into kind of key moments from the season and how big a shift they had as a team, but they've immediately become one of the best 20 teams in the league.
Okay.
The entire CFB.
So how often, I guess, if you put it into like NFL terms, stuff like that, how often do the kind of college teams shift in standards? So obviously you've got your elite college, and then like how easy for college teams to break into that bracket, and how often do they actually seem to like kind of move around?
Sure. So we spoke about D1 teams. There being, I think, 132 teams. I think we spoke in a previous episode.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
And then multiple Division 2 teams, etc. And moving between the two divisions moving from Division 2 to Division 1 is quite difficult. You can request a reclassification, and that's a whole process. It does happen, but it's
rare.
And even if you move from D2 to D1, you're not gonna broach anywhere near the playoffs for a long period of time. Yeah. Which I'll now go on to your question, Kriski. So it's very difficult in the current playoff setup to break into that top 4.
Yeah.
Because even if you get an undefeated season, you are not guaranteed to get into the playoffs.
Huh?
Is that the whole strength of schedule thing?
It's strength of schedule, but it's also it's done based off a playoff committee. So there's a committee that decides who the rankings are. And the top 4 are ranked by the committee, and they decide who the top 4 are.
Right.
The reason they do that is because strength of schedule, like Dami says. If you play in a certain conference, the SEC, some of the bigger conferences, you're going to play tougher teams, and therefore going undefeated in that conference, or even just losing 1 or 2 games in that conference, is better than winning all your games in a much worse conference.
Okay.
Football terms for you. Having a 30-win, 8-loss, no-draw season in the Premier League is better than having an undefeated season in League One, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Similar kind of thing.
Okay.
It's not always as aggressive as that, but Championship, similar kind of thing. Undefeated in the Championship, but 8 losses in the Premier League. You're starting to get a bit closer.
Yeah.
But really, that Championship team moves up to the Premier League. Where are they next
back
year?
down.
Yeah.
They could at best they're mid-table.
Yeah.
At best they're mid-table, right? So that's kind of the similar thinking.
Wolves finished 7th in their first season back in the Prem.
No one cares about Wolves.
Which first season was that? The 15th?
How are we classing mid-table? That sounds mid-table to me.
Oh, sorry.
Fourth right now. In a terrible season. Fourth right now.
Wow, whatever, man.
Terrible season.
Well,
Alright, move on.
That's all I'm saying. Terrible.
Yeah, let's go.
Anyway, so those are the big player moves. Hopefully that'll make sense. And how just a bit more on the playoffs. So top 4 is how is the playoffs. That's it.
Yeah.
So undefeated season doesn't necessarily mean you get in, and it's decided by a playoff committee who decide who the teams are. One thing I'll just add: upcoming, they are planning on shifting that to a 12-team playoff, which is a really, really big deal. They're planning on expanding the playoffs to be more teams, which is way better.
How you go from 4 to 16?
12.
So,
To 12, sorry.
What, 4 to 12?
Yeah, it's the increase by 8.
okay.
That's still a big increase.
It is, because they've realised that there are a lot of good teams that could compete, and then you have a lot bigger games. It means, because at the moment, I don't want to get into the bowl games in too much detail, because we've spoken about it in a previous episode as well, but there's a lot of bowl games, but a lot of those bowl games don't really mean a lot. And often you'll find that the big players don't play in them if they're trying to get drafted. Because why? What's the point? It's not going to improve your draft capital, and really you're just risk of injury. So they're trying to make more games at the end of the season relevant and interesting. Again, Premier League terms, right? If you've got a team that's 9 points clear and there's 2 games left in the season, the season's over. It's boring. No, it doesn't matter.
Playing under 21s.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a waste of time. Whereas the idea of expanding to a 12-team playoff is that you have more games that mean something. And that's only good for the sport, right? And the players, right? Because then you actually want to play, you push yourself into... You're then a playoff player. That can improve your draft capital as well.
Yeah.
Gives you more chances to get game film, which we've spoken about is a big deal as well.
So, how would it actually work? Because I'm trying to work it out in my head. Would a couple of teams get a bye? Like the top 2 teams get a bye? Because if you look at 12, then you end up with 6.
Yeah, the top 4 teams.
I think
the
so.
top 4 teams get a bye, and then it's like
I think
it'll be semi-final situation.
I think it'll be something like that. I don't think they fully ironed out all the details on exactly how that'll work, but their full plan is from 4 to 12.
Okay.
There's way past due. Again, NCAA moving at a glacial pace, but it totally makes sense that happens. More games, more interesting games. So coaching moves. We move on to big coaching moves in the off season. So Lincoln Riley to USC was the main one I discussed. Massive. That shifted so many players around. It changed the whole dynamic of the kind of draft portal because the transfer portal, because so many players were then shifted around who were moving with him or moving away because their role got taken.
He just got that much pull, or what?
Well, USC is one of the biggest brands in college football, and they haven't been that good for a while. But now getting one of the best coaches in CFB, everyone gravitates to him because he's such a good coach, and he was so good with Oklahoma last year in 2021 that players moved with him, and as a result, a lot of players then shifted away. But very, very quickly, as I said, they had the best. They made the biggest moves in the transfer portal because he's got that gravitational pull, and they're now expected to be a bigger franchise. And California's got a massive intake of high school players, and being the best team in California automatically just increases that kind of potential of players that will then want to come and play for you. It's very easy for USC to get significantly better, whereas it would be much harder for a team in the north to get better because there's not as many players.
Yeah, fair.
Far more players play in the south and in California and on the coast. Florida.
So isn't that just assuming that everyone stays within their state though from high school?
A lot of them do because you get cheaper schooling.
Yeah,
and just generally, and even if you get, because obviously a lot of them get a lot of players get scholarship.
Yes.
But moving across countries isn't something you do. That would be like going from the UK to go to school in like Ukraine. Or somewhere just really like...
It's a wild choice.
Sorry. Bad example.
I mean, of all the choices. But
okay, my bad. Turkey. My bad. Turkey.
Another natural disaster, but cool.
Greece. Yeah. Further. I'm trying to do somewhere that's like for India. I don't know. It's far. I don't know.
Keep going. Australia.
It's far, right? It's a big move, and as I said, there's a lot of all of the best college programs and all the players play in the south or on the coasts. So that's where the biggest potential is.
Warm weather, clearly.
yeah.
It's a warm weather game.
It's Buffalo.
Warm weather game.
Yeah, Buffalo when it's snowing.
Well, Minnesota decided to put a dome on it because they were like, I'm not touching that anymore. The Vikings were like, no shot.
Yeah.
Too cold out here. A few other coaching moves we want to discuss. So Brent Venables to Oklahoma. He then obviously shifted to Oklahoma in the move of Lincoln Riley. Sonny Dykes to TCU was a big shift.
Yeah.
TCU obviously performing incredibly well, which we'll get into a little bit later, but big move there. Kalen DeBoer to Washington. Washington, really good year as well. Brian Kelly to LSU. LSU kind of ever since that exceptional team with Joe Burrow, they've dipped a little, but as you'd expect, because you have the first draft pick and Jamar Chase. So that team was stacked, as we spoke about in a previous episode. But Brian Kelly's a really big move for them, and LSU starting to bring it back. And I'll go into my rankings later, but I think LSU are coming back. Again, as I say, they've got a lot of players in the area that will come and play for them. And then Marcus Freeman to Notre Dame. So those are my big coaching moves.
Nice.
Cool.
Key moments then from the season. So USC going from a pretty average program, like I've just mentioned, to one of the best with help from the transfer portal. Lincoln Riley coming up short against Utah twice in some really incredible games. A 43-42 game. It was incredible. Just some unbelievable play from Williams as well. And the Utah team is really good. So yeah, really good games, but two games where they came up short where, yeah, if they'd got those wins, could have been a different season for them. But
is the scoring similar to the NFL in that high scoring games?
We spoke before.
Higher scoring, lower scoring.
Yeah,
I think they tend to be higher scoring games because their defense. Because I think the offensive players are so good, and a lot of the time the defensive side of the ball, they're not able to keep up. Whereas in the pro game, they can actually
they get a lot better when they get to
Well, we spoke about that in a previous episode about all the key differences in the sports and why the average points. There's in average more than 7 points more on an average college game than there is in NFL. Like I mentioned, the hash marks are much farther apart. You can exploit matchups and all that kind of stuff we spoke about before. The other thing is they lost to Tulane in the Cotton Bowl, so missed their chance at a playoff in the playoffs. That they had a shot at it, losing to Utah twice and then losing in the Cotton Bowl killed out their chances. But
there's no chance of that.
Maybe next year. TCU, most improved team, I would say, going from 5-7 in 2021 to 13-2 this year, making to the national championship game, being unranked at the start of the season. Sonny Dykes having an unbelievable season, and Max Duggan breakout year.
We love an underdog story.
We do.
That's the one thing, ain't that right, Biz? We love an underdog story.
It's the point of sport.
Eh?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So wait.
BCB.
So wait. Oh my lord. This BCB thing. Wait, so explain to me, TCU. Were they just really good this season? Like Sonny Dykes coming in, Max Duggan at quarterback. Were they just a match made in heaven, or was it a bit like the Vikings where they were scraping by, getting these wins, and they had like a negative net?
Oh no, they were blowing teams out.
Okay, they were blowing teams out.
Oh no, they were blowing teams out. TCU played really well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Their semi-final of the before they made it to the championship game, unbelievable. They played really well. Max Duggan just came out of nowhere, just had a breakout year, much better, really good. Clearly worked with Sonny Dykes. Really strong team. Worked with the run game. All seemed to come together. I think they'll have a dip. I think they're losing a couple of players.
Yeah.
Sonny Dykes is going to be able to keep that going forever. It's not a program where they're getting all of these players like we spoke about with some of the other teams. You know, your USCs, your Miamis, your teams where they just got a lot of players coming in. This is kind of a flash in the pan moment for TCU, I think. I think they'll still be good next year, but we're not talking playoff contenders, I don't think. Nebraska, one of the craziest moments, Nebraska fired Scott Frost, their head coach, after just 3 games.
What?
In which they were 1-2, and the 2 games they lost were close.
That's brutal. Why?
Brutal, yeah. So people largely raised their eyebrows at it. Like, really? That seems harsh. But they I think at the start said, we need to go 3-0. These aren't great teams. So because the disparity in skill set and in skills and ability is often so big between the better teams and the worst teams. And Nebraska aren't a top team, but they have been in the past. The Cornhuskers. But they played some slightly weaker teams that you would generally expect to beat. It's like a Premier League team, right? Early on in the season, you're Man City and you play against the newly promoted team. You lose 3, you lose a game against a freshly promoted team after being that big a team.
I wouldn't expect him to get sacked after 3 games in the season. That's just,
would Pep get sacked after that? Nah.
That's just savage.
Listen, don't get me wrong. Eyebrows were raised. And I thought it was weird, and I think it was harsh. That's why I brought it up. I think it was harsh.
Yeah, but do we know what the internal conversations were?
Something happened behind the
scenes. Like for example, maybe the conversation at the start of the season was, I want to make it to the playoffs, and then if we're going to make it to the playoffs, we need to win every single game. After the first 3 games, you already know you're not going to make the playoffs. So you might as well get rid of it.
He might
if that was the conversation.
Yeah.
Flipped off the board. And
exactly. He might have just gone, I'm out of here.
Yeah, start the season off and then let's go again next year.
Yeah. Because
it's tough though.
Yeah.
You're that coach. You're like, damn.
Yeah, because for some of the for at least for some of the bigger teams, after 3 games, if you've lost 2, you already know you're gonna find it hard to make it to the playoffs. Because the way the committee choose who makes it, you already know after 3 games or 4 games whether you actually have a chance of making it.
Yeah, this is the difference though with the committee deciding is that if you're in Alabama, even if you lose 2 games at the start of the season, you could still get in. You easily still get in.
Yeah.
You win the rest. You win out, you'll get in.
Yeah, but they didn't.
Yeah, they didn't. That's a different
Who
story.
are the committee? Like, who are these people?
They're designated people who operate as the committee. They're professionals in the who work for the NCAA as the actual player committee. Is their role.
Fair enough.
I don't love it. I think it has its benefits because it means that they avoid bad teams getting into the playoffs just because they've had one good year. It avoids...
Well, that's good. That's what we want.
We want underdogs. That's what we like.
That is what should happen if you expand to a 12-team playoff. In a 4-team playoff, they've done it before. They did it with the Cincinnati Bearcats, who were undefeated
The hell is a bearcat?
Yeah,
Smush two things together, man, and just like, here we go.
oh, I forget it sometimes. It's
Oh.
good. Happened with Cincinnati.
Oh.
They were undefeated, and everyone was pushing, saying they're undefeated, they're a good team, put them in the playoffs. They put them in the playoffs, and they got destroyed. And that happened 2 years ago. They got annihilated, and there was like the committee just didn't say anything. They were like, we warned you.
Yeah.
We warned you. This is what happens, and this is why we have a committee, and this is why we avoid this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, you can go undefeated, but you're still going to get blown out by Alabama.
I want to see that though.
Yeah,
Really?
They
Yeah,
deserve,
but
a,
playoffs?
but they deserve a shot. If they've gone undefeated all year, they deserve a shot at the playoffs, because whether they get, it's like FA Cup final. Like, Wigan got to the final, or was it Wigan or someone, and then they lost 5-0, but they still got there.
I agree with you. In a 12-team playoff, absolutely. In a 14 playoff, it just means one of the games is a joke.
You're giving these big dogs too many options to just breeze through.
Yeah.
But you're
Kind of agree.
to the playoffs, but then they actually have a competitive game. Thing is, Alabama, when they got their game against Cincinnati, were like, cool, happy days for them, because they just blew them out. They got an easier route.
Yes, but if they don't deserve to be then the first instance.
As I say, I actually agree with you. I think it works with a 12-team playoff, but does not really work with a 14 playoff, because you just end up having an easy game, and what happens is the team that gets the easy game just has a massive advantage in the national championship game, because they've just blown out a team and they've just dropped all their starters in the third quarter, because why am I playing you? We're up like 30. So just it has its benefits, as I say, because it avoids generally things like that until the committee get pushed too hard, and then they're like, keep pushing us. Keep pushing us. Okay, we'll put a bad team in there.
I'll bring you some bobcats.
Decimate it. Yeah, we'll bring you some Bearcats to decimate. And Cincinnati are a good team. But they were
Good
really
team,
good.
terrible name.
We got some worse ones. But great team. Everyone's talking about how amazing they are. Everyone's saying they could easily give Alabama a good game and got destroyed. It's just like, because people were hoping they would do it, and that's why the underdog story is so. People are compelled by it, but then it comes down to it, and it's.
I still want to see it every year. Someone getting blown out.
You will.
Players.
The 12-team playoff? Yeah. Game on. Kansas Jayhawks, big comeback year for them, from 2-10 in 2021, winning 3 in a row at the start of the season. They finished 6-7, which obviously isn't a great season, but it's still a big turnaround from 2-10. And again, as I say, they won their first 3 games. And they had one of the most exciting bowl games in bowl history. Ooh. Triple overtime, losing 55-53 to Arkansas. And they were leading TCU at halftime back in October before eventually losing 38-31.
So I know you explained the overtime rule in college football in the previous episode, but can you just explain it again? Because does it work the same as the pro game? No, so I think I discussed this in one of the previous episodes, but basically now what they do is you start from 25 yards out from your opposing team's end zone, so 25 yards away from scoring a touchdown, and then you just play. So instead of kicking off like in the program and you start from your own 25, you start from your opposition's 25, close to scoring a touchdown, and then you just try and score a touchdown, then they try and score a touchdown, and then it's essentially back and forth.
So how's it win? Is it time limit?
No, you just keep going until someone doesn't score, which is why I went to triple overtime.
Oh.
Or someone doesn't score a touchdown. They change it up. It gets they make it I can't remember what they do. I think I discussed it in the previous episode, but they change it so it becomes much harder to score or much easier to score. So someone's more likely to screw it up.
Take a player off or something.
No, I think they change it up as the further down you go. I think it's then 2-point conversions they do, which are much harder to convert. So they switch up to 2-point conversions to win it.
Nah, long snapper's got to be your quarterback.
Things like that would be amazing. But some would argue it makes a bit of a mockery of the sport, but sure.
Coach has got to be your only receiver.
Can you imagine?
Then you rely on having a really in shape coach, and some of the big boys are going to struggle. Imagine Nick Saban.
Nick Saban, man.
Nick Saban throwing a quarterback.
Dabo Sweeney at offensive tackle.
He does a Philly special in the end zone, and he's jogging in to try and catch it. I'd love to see that. And then my final key moment for the season was Sam Hartman returned to Wake Forest and had a very good year. He was listed as indefinitely out for a non-football related medical issue, which made it seem like he would never make it back. But he made it back and had a good season, so good for Sam Hartman.
He's the old QB1 guy, isn't he? He was on QB1 Netflix series.
Was he?
Don't know.
Yeah.
Wake Forest, Sam Hartman?
Sam Hartman?
Yeah.
Was he? I don't know. I've not seen it.
You guys not watched
I
QB1?
watched
I've
it,
seen
but
some,
I don't,
but not
I don't remember him being on it.
Guys.
I don't remember him being on it.
Netflix, yeah, he was on.
It's all about Jake Frog.
Yeah, he might have even been in that. Yeah, he was.
That was it. He recovered from a blood clot.
Wow.
He had a blood clot.
Yeah,
recovered
Sam
from
Hartman. Yeah, QB1.
it.
Okay,
Fair enough.
Guys, get to know.
Yeah, my bad.
Anyways, yeah, good for Sam Hartman. Likeable guy,
He was a very likable
Yeah,
guy.
good
yeah.
player.
Still is, but yeah, he's.
Yeah. Oh no, but like, do you know what I mean? Like, he got out of the league and it from unrelated injury, unrelated medical issue, not an injury related. That is tough.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Anyway, but he made it back. Good season for Wake Forest. Could find him still at Wake Forest. Could get moved to a bigger team in the off season from the
Is it
South
likely?
Portal. I think it could very easily happen.
Okay.
Wake Forest are a good side and they had a good season, but it's not a big franchise. But he could move
No,
to
it's
a.
not.
There's some teams out there that need quarterbacks, and if he's healthy again, he could get picked up. So, like Sam Hartman, so good for him.
Yeah.
Can we just swing
Show
back
some
to
Sam
the
Hartman
coach moves? So like
Mm-hmm.
in the previous episode, we spoke about how the levels of moving from being a college coach to being a NFL coach. What's
Right.
it like with high school and college?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I don't know about high school coaches moving to college. I think it's a pretty similar thing because there's a lot of college programs. So if you're a good high school coach, moving to be a defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, wide receiver coach, whatever, in one of the your local college, probably isn't that hard. It's probably not easy. You need to have a resume. You need to have coached, but it's far easier. There's 132 Division 1 teams. There's also Division 2 teams. There's JUCO.
Yeah.
Like there's JUCO for the listeners is junior college, which we'll go into another episode. We'll go into detail on that. But there's a lot of coaching opportunities at more junior levels of the college game. But I don't know. I imagine I don't think it's that challenging. But I mean, there's only 32 American national football teams, so NFL teams. So.
But they'd still go through a similar route where they'd probably go to be a offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator.
I mean, it's on
just being the head coach.
I imagine there's probably scenarios where the head coach has gone to be a head coach of a maybe not so good college team. I don't think there's that big a shift from being a big high school coach to being a lower level college coach. I think it's a far bigger shift from being a college coach to an NFL coach because of the reasons we've spoken about before. Like, he goes in the room, salary changes. You're basically going from a team of players that make no money to a team of players that make no money. So, egos in the room is probably not something you have to worry about as much. Which is one of the hardest things, man management. Things like that.
I do think a significant part of being a college coach, though, is recruiting players. You have to make your program seem attractive to potential recruits. That's true. Especially if you're a small college and a college where it's likely that you won't get picked up in the draft and that NFL teams will not be coming, and there are players who hope one day to be in the NFL. It's going to be hard to recruit players. So as a coach, you have to be a leader of men. You have to be a great person, a basic salesman.
I imagine,
and you wouldn't have to do that at high school.
Surely that's not all on the head coach though. To be
well, it would be on the director of the athletic director, but it would be on the coach because at the end of the day, you're playing for the coach. You're not playing for the athletic director.
Depends on the college team as well. They may not have an athletic director.
Yeah.
May not be that big at college. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Couple of notable results from this year that I'll just go through quickly before we move on to kind of a playoff roundup. Appalachian State in week 2 beat Texas A&M 17-14. Massive upset that set the tone for a really poor year for A&M. Losing 17-14 to an Appalachian State team is not something Texas A&M can really live with. That's pretty poor. Michigan beat Ohio State at Ohio State 28-3. Second half performance from JJ McCarthy, outplaying CJ Stroud and putting Michigan firmly in control of the playoff picture and all but ensuring a top 3 seed.
Yeah, that's huge.
Big game from Michigan. Put themselves in a great position. TCU beat Baylor, last second field goal with the clock running. So that is a big difference for those of us that have watched American football a lot. If taking a field goal whilst the clock is running is very, very different than taking it when the clock isn't running and you've got a timeout.
Yeah.
You've got to rush, everyone's got to get placed, everyone's got to set, kick, clock is ticking down, last second, kicked it through, amazing moment. Yeah, that was really good. Utah beating USC, Cam Rising, huge performance, 415 yards and the 2-point conversion at the end to win the game. Huge decision from Kyle Whittingham to go for it as well, to get that 2-point conversion to win. Yeah, another crazy game. TCU beat Michigan in the Fiesta Bowl. Both semi-finals were unbelievable. Georgia versus Ohio State was pretty crazy as well for those of us that watched it. Arian Smith coming up big for Georgia, 129 yards and a touchdown. Efforts from CJ Stroud, Egbuka and Harrison Jr. Not quite enough as the game finished 42-41. Ohio State 50-yard field goal missed at the end. No chance. Noah Ruggles shanked it. And yes, it would have been his longest kick, but still had absolutely no chance. He shanked it.
50 yards.
50 yards is big for a college player, and he shanked it.
Yeah.
How far do you reckon you could kick?
Oh, like 20.
Did you say 12 or 20?
20.
Oh, I thought you said 12 or something.
12? 12's like the length of this run. 12?
That's why I was just
I
like...
can kick it 12.
Wait, you don't think you can kick it further than 20?
Through a post.
Wait, am I bugging out here? 20's not that far. Is
20's
it?
not
It's
far.
the edge of the box, really. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't kick it.
I said I can kick it 20. We said
Oh.
further than 20.
Yeah, can you?
I don't think I'd hit many further than 20.
Oh my god.
I think you guys are crazy.
You've seen him kick a ball though.
Hang on. I think you guys are crazy to think you'd confidently kick an American football that hard, that far, directly through the posts.
Yeah, man, you get it in the middle of the.
I would like to think I'd be...
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't say 50 yards, but I think I could do 35.
35.
35.
If you could do
35.
35.
35.
There are professional NFL kickers that miss 35-yard kicks.
That's not my problem. I could do 35.
Yeah, I'm not saying... I'm not throwing...
Go make your millions then.
I'm not throwing all the variables. I'm just thinking, yeah, it's one of those little sticks that tease the ball up and then goes. Yeah, I could do 35.
I reckon I
Okay.
could do 35.
Bet money.
Okay.
No, I don't want any linebackers running at me. No, I just want set there and then kick it.
Okay,
Bet.
we need to do an episode.
Yeah,
of this.
we need to do an episode of filming that. Bet money. You're not hitting 35 yards.
I think
I
I
reckon
could.
I could.
5 chances.
Yeah.
Five
You're not
chances.
hitting more than one.
No, but he's got techers though.
I,
He does.
You think he could play college?
no,
That's not what I'm saying.
That's not what I'm saying.
Variables aren't there.
No.
No variables. Just
They often miss 35-yard kicks.
Yeah, but they got the variables.
I mean, I love the confidence, but
I
damn.
like. Thank you, boys, for backing me.
Yeah, of
Then
course.
we'll have a conversation later.
We'll take it outside.
I'm backing me. I can do it too.
We'll take it outside. What I'll do is I'll stand 36 yards away, and we'll see if you can hit me with the ball.
Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a big target, so.
Huh?
Cold-blooded. Moving on.
Oh, I'm sick of
So-
this guy now.
So what happened with Tennessee?
Tennessee beat Alabama. I'm sick of you, man. Tennessee beat Alabama. Hendon Hooker playing an unbelievable game. Definitely should have gone to New York as a finalist, but didn't. Caleb Williams 100% deserved to win it. He won the Heisman, but and he will be a number one overall pick. But Hendon Hooker had a great year and will likely go in the second round of the draft in April.
Who were the finalists of the Heisman?
My boy Stenson,
Oh, Stetson.
Caleb Williams.
Caleb, TCU
Max
quarterback,
Duggan.
Max Duggan, and was it either CU?
Bryce Young must be.
Well, I think Bryce Young.
Young,
Okay,
Is it-
so
is
all
it-
QBs?
Yes.
A Heisman usually won by QBs, running
Yeah.
backs, wide receivers.
yeah.
Maybe not even wide receivers.
Yeah, no, Devontae
Devontae
Smith.
won it,
A
yeah.
few years ago for Alabama.
Yeah.
It is won by wide receivers and sometimes running backs, but it's more often than not quarterbacks because
The game is just all about
Yeah,
quarterbacks.
it's a QB sport.
It just
It's a
is,
QB
yeah.
yeah, it's
sport,
quarterback
man.
driven sport. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
LSU beat Alabama in overtime, pretty much finishing.
What's wrong with you?
pretty much.
No, you say QB sport, but no. Stenson Bennett didn't make a difference for Georgia. Just saying.
Oh man.
Nah, carry on.
He's got some feelings about Stetson Bennett, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Let's see where he goes.
I'm pretty sure he's saying Stenson the whole time.
He
as
is
well.
saying Stenson.
Yeah,
Stinkson. Stinkson? Listen, if he goes anywhere near the top of the draft, you'll get a 5 off me.
What's the top of the draft then?
Anywhere in the top 4 rounds.
In the top,
He ain't going to the top 4. He ain't going to the first 4 rounds. Kriski, where do you actually think he'll go?
top 4 rounds.
You
No.
think he'll go in the 4th?
Yeah.
You think Stetson Bennett's going in the 4th round of the NFL draft?
Yep.
All right.
I think some NFL teams need quarterbacks.
Yeah, they don't need that quarterback. They like someone who's got the ability to grow.
He's got experience already.
He's like 40.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright.
LSU.
Yeah, he'll go 5th or 6th round. LSU beat Alabama in overtime, pretty much finishing any chance Alabama had at the playoffs. Bryce Young will still be probably the number 1 pick, or at least the 2nd overall pick.
Sure.
But yeah, tough year for Alabama in the end. Texas A&M, who had a disappointing season, pretty much crush LSU's chances at the playoffs as well. So really, really weird. LSU finished off Alabama. Texas A&M finished off LSU. Georgia then demolished TCU, making a statement to all of college football that they're the best with 2 national championships in a row. Pretty nuts year for them.
That is
that
dynasty right there.
Yeah.
Well, Stetson's gone, so clearly not. Yeah, is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that's creating one. That is back to back. What was
Uh-huh.
it? Alabama was the previous one to do that in 2011.
So, question about your opinion on Stetson Bennett. If they then win a 3rd national championship in the row, like if they win it next year,
Yeah.
or Stetson,
No, because then he put the foundations in as well.
Oh my lord!
he put the foundations in.
Yeah,
I read
he's
that,
obviously
I read
because
that.
someone's been sitting
Read that.
behind him for a whole year, 2 years, and then
Oh my!
Someone probably came in, got drafted while he's been there this whole time.
So-
Guy's about 40.
Don't hate.
Red shirt for 5 years. And those are my key things from the season. Playoff roundup.
Yeah.
But yeah, did you
Quick
know
roundup.
that the football playoff was the first one that didn't feature Alabama or Clemson?
I didn't know that.
First one ever.
Yeah, so that's the
First
committee.
one
That's the
ever.
committee for you.
Wow.
So there's only 4 teams out of the 132, and it's the first ever year they've not been in.
One of those 2 teams hasn't been in.
Yeah, but my question is that because they've been good every single year up until literally the year just gone?
Yeah, bit of
Okay.
both. Yeah, honestly, yeah, because they've got probably the
Yeah.
stature of their
Yeah.
Alabama,
Yeah.
but also
Yeah, because-
obviously they're good programs.
I know Nick Saban is the most winningest coach in college football.
What?
history.
Winningest.
That's
I love
that
phrase.
that phrase.
Most-
It's a phrase.
Yeah, I know
man.
it's a phrase. It shouldn't be the most winningest coach. Come on.
You don't say most winningest, you just say the winningest.
Yeah, sorry, or the most successful. I should have said most
successful.
successful.
Winningest isn't any better.
Yeah, and
It's like saying guesstimate. I hate that.
Who says guesstimate?
People, man. People I don't
Who
talk
are
to.
you working with there, man? They're saying
All I'm saying
guesstimate.
is, people in this room don't say guesstimate. Why do you think that is? Because I don't listen to people that say guesstimate. You get relegated from the room if you say guesstimate.
Nah, my worst is people that say Pacific instead of specific.
Pacific.
Pacific
That
is in
Pacific
the
one.
You hanging out with like 8-year-olds.
specific.
Go sit on the stairs.
Okay, I'm not, yeah.
That means testing how he says it. He's
Yeah, man.
Oh my god, not the S.
Checking himself now.
I'm real quiet over
yeah,
here.
talking about oceans.
I'm real quiet.
Jeez. Alright, finish up. Playoffs. Let's summarise.
Sure.
Well, yeah, obviously, I think one of the big ones was the TCU. You mentioned it, going from unranked to underdog, and then reaching the big finale. But sadly, Georgia was all over them. I think they set the record, didn't they?
Yeah, they blew him out.
Yeah, set the record of the biggest win.
Shows being nice, man. They blew him out.
So yeah, tough ending for them. But it was actually the first school from Texas to make the college football.
Really?
Yeah.
Surprising.
I thought a lot of good players would have come through Texas.
The Longhorns are a good side. Really?
Nope. According to this, no. Yeah. First school from Texas.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Go TCU.
Yeah. I think Patrick Mahomes played for like Texas Tech.
Yeah, he did.
And,
Yeah, he did.
and-
Oh, he wasn't good.
I know that, but like, surely there would have been good players that came through in Texas.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of good Texas players.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Did he play there the whole time?
Who
He got drafted from Texas Tech.
Yeah, he
It's
got
common.
drafted from Texas Tech. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, Josh,
Josh
Allen is Wyoming.
Wyoming. Yeah, some.
Yeah. It's often the case. Like we spoke about, quarterbacks
Yeah,
moving up
yeah.
from worse teams because they get chased around a lot and they learn how to play, how you're going to play in the NFL, which is you're not going to just stand there and throw.
Yeah.
You're getting
True,
chased.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah. So Georgia win it all, and then let's look forward. I guess let's move into a little bit looking into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So future draft picks, stars of the NFL, a few players we've already discussed, but I'll just ping through a few names. So Max Duggan and Stetson Bennett did bolster their resumes for the upcoming draft.
Yes, though.
I will say both will likely go in the later rounds though.
Yeah, probably, but
Yeah.
I want to see a bet on this. What's the actual bet?
On what?
On if Stetson Bennett goes in the first 4 rounds, what are you doing?
I said I'd give him a $5.
Oh, is it?
No,
Oh,
you got to do something more than that.
I was on camera.
Huh? What kind of show do you think this is?
They'll think it's
What's wrong with you? Will Levis, another good season for Kentucky. Will likely go early in the first round, probably top 10, but likely probably the third quarterback off the board behind CJ Stroud and Bryce Young.
Sure.
Will Anderson, edge rusher for Alabama, likely probably go top 5, top 10 as well. Always seems to find a way to get to the quarterback and had 10 sacks this year. Really good year.
Yeah,
Really good year. Like he's solid edge rusher.
Yeah.
Quentin Johnson, TCU star wide receiver, likely go early in the first round. Jordan Addison, strong year for USC, likely also go in the first round. A couple of good wide receivers. Jalen Carter, defensive tackle for Georgia, probably go in the first round. Bryce Breesy, defensive tackle for Clemson, another good player who's probably going to go pretty high up first round.
Yeah.
Peter Skoronsky, tackle for Northwestern, best pass blocker in the country, allowing only 5 pressures on 383 snaps.
That's insane.
wow.
5
That
pressures.
is insane.
What's this guy made
for
of?
Northwestern. I mean, a
Lord
brick
knows.
wall, but moving one.
Who's the guy that you sent me the reel for earlier?
Oh, I forgot. But
Oh.
yeah, him in the combat. Well, actually, no, it was his pro day.
Yeah.
Was that this year? Was that?
No, yeah, it was this year.
We need to find that because
Yeah,
guy was a
man.
freak of nature.
Yeah,
It
Moving
was like
quick.
a bear.
yeah.
A bear cat or what?
Yeah.
Nimble,
Oh man,
but big.
I don't know where they get these things from.
Oh, we'll do.
Just mix random words together and random animals.
There's some.
Even
there's
Jayhawk, unless a Jayhawk is a thing and I don't know about it. Is a Jayhawk a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck. What's a Jayhawk look like, Dami?
It's
They're
not,
not-
What else do you?
Hey,
like,
What's
it's not
David
like,
Attenborough?
it's not like a sea bear or something.
these
like
college
I mean, they got, I don't know, bobcats are a thing. But a bear cat is definitely not a
Hey,
thing.
the West
this is
Cincinnati
their thinking that college
best
teams are playing,
bears.
what, 3 words, man?
Yeah.
By the way, the guy's name is DJ Fluker.
Oh, DJ Fluker.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Guy's
he's
nuts.
a freak, man. They were just running at him with pads and he just there like, nope.
Big guy. Last one, Michael Mayer, tight end for Notre Dame, could sneak into the top 10, top 15. Tight ends don't often go that high,
I was thinking,
high up.
No chance.
But he was key for Notre Dame, 51 catches, 624 yards, 5 touchdowns. But crucially, he was key for their run game as well. So that could translate into the NFL pretty well. You can't necessarily translate hands and ability to separate, but pass blocking, that can translate pretty well. And no other tight ends really close to the first round. So he could get picked up early by maybe Panthers, Green Bay, Texans, or Tennessee. They could need a tight end.
Do you... I don't know whether it's just me, just the last couple of years I've been following the draft. I've noticed that certain years it then starts up like positions seem to like recycle. So one year it's kind of like offensive, so you'll be a really big quarterback draft. Next year will be potentially. I've seen what I'm seeing is a lot of edge rushers, defensive tackles in this draft. Obviously, there's quite a strong QB draft as well. Is that quite common then? The fact that positions seem to recycle like every 2 years, or like you'll just suddenly get a. Because I remember seeing I think it was Devontae Smith's draft. wide receivers galore that year. And it was like, is there a reason why? I guess there's just these, or is it just coincidence?
I don't know, actually. It does seem to happen. Maybe that's just confirmation bias, though. You think you're going to see it, and therefore you see it. So I don't know. It could be a bit of that, but I think also, I think there might be a little bit of competition and arrogance to it. Like, no, I'm the best wide receiver.
Yeah,
I think there could be a little bit of that. I haven't done much research on it or have any data really to back that up. But like, players are really heavily driven by ego. We've spoken about before, like ego, particularly skill position players, like pure ego. So could be a little bit of competition there to say, yeah, okay, you're gonna submit for the draft this year. Okay, I'm gonna submit for the draft this year. Let's see who goes higher.
Yeah,
that is real confident because you still see. Who is it that's just retired? I don't know. Yeah, it's Travis Kelce actually. Not retired, obviously, but he was still bitter the fact that the Eagles didn't take him, and who got picked ahead of Zach Ertz. But it was like they're still, even though they've made a career in the NFL, they've done so much, and they're still like, no, still bitter that someone beat him out. So it's mad. It's
but the only way you make it to the NFL is if you have fought to be the best in your position at least once. Like to beat someone out for your position. Like you've beaten them, you've taken the position, that's your position. You probably did in high school, you almost certainly did it in college, at least once.
Yeah.
So they've got to have a bit of an ego, and that's what we spoke about in terms of coaching. Like you've got to have a bit of an ego, and a bit of swag about you. Otherwise, you're gonna just lose your job. So it would almost be weird if they didn't. Do you know what I mean? Particularly for skill position players, where there's an element of bragging rights and taking your position, and on the offensive line you've got five roles. Wide receiver, you're gonna end up on the bench unless you're a 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, true.
Fine. Those are the big draft picks I think are probably upcoming for the upcoming draft.
I think it should be quite an exciting draft.
I think there's a lot of good options.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think
the only thing I'm seeing is quarterbacks. There's some talent, but there's no one where you're like, that guy is just considerably better.
Yeah.
Bryce Young looks good, but people are talking about how small he is and can he play in the cold? I'm not sure. He seems like a warm weather kind of player to me. You put him in anywhere further north, and I think
I think from what I've seen, there's been better QB drafts. Before, but whether it's just now as well, NFL teams. It's just there's a lot of you've seen retirements the last couple of years, and like QB's just being a bit more box standard. So whether it's just like the need is now, we need just and they're like, these are the best of what's around at the moment.
There's definitely talent. It's just there seems like a lot of kind of mid to good to decent quarterbacks. I'm not seeing.
You're not seeing a Joe Burrow or a Trevor Lawrence come in and be a franchise.
Right. Yeah. I wouldn't be confident about any of the current quarterbacks who are going to get drafted this year starting for my team. If I was a GM, I wouldn't be confident.
That's my opinion.
Even if I had one of the best offensive lines and a great wide receiver core, I wouldn't feel overly confident. Unless I was maybe a southern team like Carolina or a Texas, and I was taking Bryce Young. Even then, I'd still be not 100%.
You'd still be like, I'd maybe wait next year and get Caleb.
I mean, I think this year we're going to see some tanking for Caleb.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, you're going to see a team.
Well, they'll just trade their first
round
pick.
No.
They'll lose the season on purpose.
They'll lose the season on purpose to get first round pick to take him.
Wow.
Well, they won't lose games on purpose. What teams often do is they trade away their better players. Players they aren't overly fast, or players that have got bad contracts for them. They'll trade them away and try and then rebuild their team around that quarterback and make sure they lose by effectively just putting practice squad players in their team.
Yeah.
That's what they do. That's what a lot of teams do. Tanking for Tua. First time I think it happened was...
For Tua was
huge. Tanking for Tua.
That was a huge thing.
Get the hashtag there.
It was huge, man.
I think the first time we saw it was like 10, 15 years ago. I can't remember who it was for. I can't remember who it was tanking for, but it was some big name player. Some team started tanking, and it's
what
kind of thing.
What if you try the tank and then you don't finish?
Well, teams do, right? Because players have pride and ego, like we said before.
Yeah, you can't tell the players to lose.
They're still fine for their careers.
Yeah, you don't ever tell the players to quit, and the coach never tells the players to quit. What the GM does is they go
just building the worst possible squad.
They trade away players, and then they speak to the coach, and if you're a good GM, you'll speak to your coach and go, look, this is what we're building towards. We're going to restructure our team and work towards this as a
What, that
longer term
player
strategy.
blows his knee out or something in the.
Yeah, but that's always the risk,
It's
isn't
always
it?
a risk of any play.
Yeah, true.
So
Yeah, but you're talking about a player you don't even have.
yeah, but
Yeah.
if you see someone like a Trevor Lawrence, like someone who can, like you've seen like players like Trevor Lawrence and Andrew Luck, where you're like, this guy could easily be the best quarterback in the world.
Yeah.
The GOAT. Like these are what these players are considered. These are players who have the skill set or the potential to potentially broach players like Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. You see players like that as a generational talent. That's what they're calling it, generational talent.
Because people were watching Trevor Lawrence from high school and they were like, this guy is going to be number one. He's going to be number one pick from high school. He's going to be the best quarterback in the league. People knew that from high school. People were looking at him going, and then he was the best quarterback in college, and then he's come to the NFL, and he's
started for the Jaguars.
Yeah, he started for the Jaguars. His first year was rough.
Yeah.
He got a new coach, and then they took him to the playoffs. They took Kansas City
Close.
close.
As I said, well, this is what I was going to say. We did our roundup last time, and we did our predictions for the upcoming season. What did I say? I think Jacksonville are going to be one of the best 4 teams.
Yeah.
They're going to be really, really good, and it's because in large part, because Trevor Lawrence is that guy. Anyway. So moving on to my super early top 10 rankings for 2023.
Can we have on request full college names just so bits can appreciate?
Nah, most of these aren't that good.
Yeah, I know they're not that good, but just
throw some random ones in there.
just test them if Chris knows.
Penn State screwdrivers.
Jeez. Okay, so is there anything else you want to add for the roundup? Any other comments you want to make before I move on to the my super early rankings that are way too early? But
Nothing.
No, I'll see what you're gonna say here, and then we'll see if we
so we'll get your glory moment out of the way first. So Georgia obviously number 1. I think. But surprisingly, they didn't drop down after Stetson Bennett left. That's crazy to me. A generational talent.
I never said those words. I just said he deserves more credit than everyone's not given him.
Okay. So Georgia will still be number 1. They've still got a great defense. They've still got good weapons. They're going to be really good. It's going to have to be proven that they're not going to win the championship, the national championship. Someone's going to have to prove that they're not going to win it this year. Even if they lose a game this year, I still don't see much of a chance that they won't win it. 2023, I mean. Michigan staying pretty high. Another good year for Michigan. I see upcoming. I don't see any reason why they'll get any worse. They've got some great players coming back. They've not got a particularly old team. They're going to look really strong next year. I still don't think they challenge Georgia, but they should make it to the playoffs comfortably.
Big Jim's still down there.
Yep, Jim Harbaugh's staying. So yeah, lots of opportunity for Michigan to start approaching Georgia, but I think it's going to be a long way to approach that Georgia team.
Wolverines.
Yeah.
Wolverines?
Yeah.
They are Wolverines, aren't they?
Yeah, the Michigan Wolverines. Yeah.
They're Wolverines.
Yeah, I like that.
And then I've got a bit of a curveball. I'm a big USC guy.
I think we found out.
I like the way they look. I like the way that Lincoln Riley's attracting the players back to a kind of storied franchise that it's now getting back to its former glory, starting to look good again, starting to challenge more towards the playoffs. They were unlucky this year. Couple of really close games, like I mentioned earlier, could have swung the other way. They could have got into the playoffs. They're gonna be better next year. So I don't see any reason why they couldn't make it into the playoffs. 3 might be a stretch, but I don't know. I just feel good about it. 3 or 4. 3 is very much not a confident pick. But I think they'll make it into the playoffs. But I think it'll be close with Ohio State, the Buckeyes.
The Buckeyes.
I think it'll be close with the Buckeyes. Ohio State are going to have just unbelievable weapons. They've always got one of the best wide receiver rooms in the country. I don't know how they keep doing it. They're just so good at recruiting skill position players, wide receivers. Yeah, they're going to be tough again. However, Alabama, still another top team, but I think they lose out on the playoffs again. I think USC takes them out. I mean, they didn't make it to the playoffs with Bryce Young.
True.
Do you know what I mean? They didn't make it to the playoffs with Bryce Young going for the Heisman. Whether he should have been there or not is another question mark.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ridiculous he's been there. I actually think Stetson Bennett probably shouldn't have gone, but you can't not send Stetson Bennett when you win the national championship, really, can you? So fair, but
my question was: it Alabama who lost their wide receivers in 2022? Did Devontae Smith go to Alabama, or was that
Devontae Smith was Alabama?
Yeah, so that's
he was 2021.
Yeah.
But some of their better wide receivers all got drafted. Yes.
Yeah, so
yes. Most
that's
of their
huge, right?
It is, but your quarterback is arguably more important. And they've got some good wide receivers up and coming, but I'm not sure that they're going to be able to fully turn that around in 1 year to bring themselves back. Even with Bryce Young, as I say, they didn't make it to the playoffs, and they lost a couple of games. They had a really good game in Tennessee, as we mentioned earlier, but. Yeah, I think that's tough for them to get back into the playoffs. They could do it. I could be wrong here. USC move out and Alabama come in, but because Alabama's obviously like we've spoken about with the committee, but I like USC for the playoff spot. Penn State, another had a really, really strong year. I don't see them getting much worse. That defense is no joke. They've got players in skill positions. They're looking strong, and I think it's going to be another strong year for them. I don't think they're going to get much higher than 6. I think it would be tricky for them to approach a team like Alabama, who are still going to be good, even though I've said without Bryce Young, but they'll still be good. But Penn State will be right in the mix there, I suspect, as well.
Penn State Thunder Rhinos.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Of course not, man. Thunder Rhinos. Are you alright?
Thunder Rhinos.
I didn't actually hear the Rhinos. I heard Thunder, and I was like, "Are they Thunder?" No, it's because they have one of the largest.
Don't try to justify it, man.
Okay. I didn't hear Rhino. I just heard Thunder something.
He said Thunder Rhinos, and he was like, "Yep, that sounds about right."
Mate.
I mean, it's actually called Penn State Nittany Lions.
Oh, close.
Nittany Lions.
I mean, I prefer that.
Let's go petition to go for the Thunder Rhinos.
Thunder Rhinos. So from now on, they'll be called the Thunder Rhinos.
Nice.
LSU Tigers, bit more conventional.
Yeah.
Probably I've got them 7th. I think, as I said before, I think they're starting to be back on the rise again. I don't think they're not as good as the team that had Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, but they're going to be right back into the mix. They've got such a good pool of players to choose from. Ryan Kelly's crushing it over there, so I can't see how they're not going to be up in the mix. Tennessee, another good year I suspect from them. They looked really good this year, and I don't see them dropping much away from the position they were in. Looking really strong.
Tennessee Debras.
Yes.
That's the last one.
I'm good with it, actually. And then we haven't even gone to Florida State.
Their names are actually Tennessee Volunteers.
Volunteers?
Yeah.
Volunteers.
Oh man.
I don't know why that's so sad.
That really is. I genuinely feel
The Volunteers.
Thunder Rhinos was one before, so yeah, obviously everything's going to be a come down from Thunder Rhinos.
Yeah, but Volunteers.
I do
It's not even a made up animal.
I don't know why they're volunteers. There'll be a reason in their history. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. On Google right now.
Volunteering to get hit.
Wow. Number 9, Florida State Seminoles.
What the hell's a Seminole?
I don't know. Florida State University Seminoles, they had a good year. They were just outside the top 10 last year. I think they're going to break in. They've got some strong players. They've got a good look about them. Really strong QB, Jordan Travis. Looks set to have another big year, so I think that they'll break into the top 10. Washington, great year. They were strong again. I don't see how they don't maintain their position. Really good players. They're not going to drop off much. I think they're going to be really good again.
What's that for name?
Washington State. No, it's not Washington State. It's Washington. Oh, I don't remember. I don't know.
I can make one up if you want.
Oh, I actually would love that. Yeah. Wildebeest.
Nah, the Washington chili avocados.
Chili avocados. You're dropping off.
Yeah, I see the chili avocado over there.
Yeah, you're clutching now.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you actually want to know why Tennessee are called Tennessee Volunteers?
Yeah, we got to wrap it up, but yeah. Go on.
Okay,
Finish on this,
it's because Tennessee is actually known as the Volunteer State. Yeah, Because
it
during-
wasn't as exciting. I kind of wanted to.
I still don't care. I don't.
During the War of 1812?
Yeah, they sent 1,500 volunteer soldiers. Hence why they're called the Volunteer State.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it's very nice and polite Tennessee, but yeah, it's like, come on, like, on a football program.
It's a pretty historic name. 1812?
Yeah.
Okay. Couple of roundup points. So TCU dropping out of the top 10, like I mentioned earlier. I think they're coming back down to a flash in the pan kind of team there. LSU pushed further up after this season, showed a lot of promise. Brian Kelly, Jaden Daniels, in his senior year, they look like they're going to be another strong year from LSU, pushing back up into where they probably would want to be, where they probably should be. FSU, as I mentioned before, look really strong with QB Jordan Travis. Looks set to have another big year.
Okay.
Nice.
I've noticed there's no Auburn or Clemson on here.
Nope. They
Right.
don't have the team. They've just not got the players. They, I don't know how else to say it. Then they're not that team anymore.
Okay.
You lose a player like Trevor Lawrence. That's going to hurt you.
What about Notre Dame?
Notre Dame will be all right. It depends if they have a quarterback for next year.
Sure.
I think that remains to be seen for me, is who their QB is going to be.
Yeah.
So I'm not 100% sure what they'll look like. But I mean, if they get a quarterback that they like and it works for them, they get someone in the transfer portal, they could be decent, but I don't think they'll break into the top 10. They've got the wide receiver talent. It's always harder in the North.
Yeah.
Like I said before, you've not got the pool of players to choose from, so I think it's the tricky thing when you play in the North.
Fair enough.
They're all playing ice hockey.
They are all playing ice hockey. They're not playing football. They're not playing NFL. American football. Cool. That's the roundup. Anything else you want to add?
Nah, I think
No.
That was good. I barely had anything besides stupid names.
And you haven't even said you haven't even said anything as stupid as some of the crazy real ones. So we'll do a little section on that and see if you see how many of them. Yeah, true or false. See how many of them you know. I think you'll find them funny.
Okay, let's go.
We'll do some of those.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
been a
it.
pleasure, boys.
Yeah, thanks
Yeah.
very much, guys, and we'll catch you in the next one.